The following is a sponsored program paid for by Robin Gwaltney Group, RE/MAX Results. Welcome to Rochester Real Estate, featuring Robin Gwaltney from Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good morning, Andy Brownell with News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. Saturday morning, and it's time for our Rochester Real Estate program with Robin Gwaltney with Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning.
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine. I mean, we've all had a crazy week. I imagine you have had an extraordinarily crazy week.
It really has been. Well, just the fact that, you and I are here together, but not really. We're doing our social distancing, right?
Absolutely. We're miles and miles apart.
But, technology is a game changer for many industries, including ours, in real estate, because people can still go online and look at all the pictures we have. Many agents have been doing open houses in a different fashion. They've been doing Facebook Live open houses. That's for some people. It's not for everybody. But we can also go in and videotape the homes and, send those out to the clients. So for the people who are absolutely uncomfortable leaving home, it's a great option.
Okay, so maybe you just walk us through how this process works with all the technology, that if you have somebody who doesn't wish to take that risk of going to a home and actually seeing it in person, how do you handle all that?
Well, we can do it several ways. And, this isn't anything new, because we've had buyers who are moving here from someplace else that will say, hey, could you FaceTime with me from the house and, walk through and basically give me a virtual tour. Like, when I'm standing in the living room, I can see the door to the bedroom, I can see the kitchen, I can see the front door, whatever, just to give them a good idea.
So you have your cell phone in your hand with the camera operating
and typically if I'm FaceTiming, I'll use my iPad just to give it a bigger, wider look.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, it's got better. I don't have the fancy camera. If I had Scott's iPhone, I guess I would use his, but it works better. But a lot of people, like homeowners, I'll just tell you this. Let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
People have been calling me right and left. Are you still showing homes? And until, the governor says you can absolutely not leave your house like they have in some states, there are still agents out there selling houses. As you know, yesterday was match day, right?
That's right, a big day.
Yeah. So it's like shelter is a need, right? And when they talk about let's resort to only going out for needs and not for wants, well, we're not out shoe shopping. We're out looking for homes for people. So when people are comfortable to go and look, and they're clearly not feeling sick, then I have no problem showing them homes, of course, if it's okay with the seller. So this past week, I showed several homes, and every single request I made for any seller was approved. So not one seller denied a showing.
I can imagine that the social distancing part of this really wouldn't be that difficult. As you show a home, it's 6 feet, and you try.
And it's just the two of us. And I've been telling my buyers, this is my new standard. I say, you put your hands in your pockets and leave them there. Okay, so I don't want you to touch anything. And then I have the Clorox wipes, and that's what I use in my hand to turn on light switches or to open doors, and I do the opening and the touching. And when I leave, before I go in, I sanitize my hands. When I leave, I sanitize my hands. So, of course, we're being very responsible, very respectful. A lot of the homeowners are actually leaving gloves out. They're leaving hand sanitizer out. They're leaving all of their lights on with a note saying, please don't turn them off. So people are in it together.
Yeah, we all are in it together, aren't we? Everybody's adjusting their lives to what appears to be a new normal for a while.
And, it's funny because everybody has a different take on it, right?
Sure.
And I think it's because we're all wired differently. And so some people are wired in a mode where they're just going to panic, whether they want to or not. And then there's other people that are going to remain more calm and realize that, as long as we're doing everything that we should do. For instance, that my folks are 82 and 85 and live across the street from me. They are absolutely banned from leaving the house, period. And I tell them, this is where you need to be. This is where you're safe. Yep. And then guess what we do? We deliver food. We put it right outside their door. I call him and say, okay, it's here. And he opens the door and gets it and takes it in. And that's just the way it has to be.
For a while, hopefully.
For a while.
Hopefully shorter than longer, that's for sure.
Correct.
But as far as your industry is concerned, especially locally in the Rochester real estate market, this is probably the worst case scenario as far as the timing of it is concerned. As this is the hottest of the hottest time of the year. Right.
And so luckily, the residents that are matching are of the age that virtual showings and electronic signing and all those kind of things, if it came down to that being the only option, if there's a group of people that would be good with it, that's the group of people.
Yeah.
So you just have to look at the bright side of things, in my opinion.
And we're innovative people. We're all finding that out, that there are solutions to every one of these challenges.
Right. We've been watching the news and watching the news anchors on the opposite ends of the desk. And, today you're there and I'm here and we're doing just fine. It's just the way it has to be for a little while. Hopefully, like you say, shorter than longer, right?
Yeah, or, as you say, as long as necessary until it appears that we're safe to go back to our interactions and move on about normally. But it's heartening to hear that process of selling and buying homes, you're finding a way to do that, and it sounds like you found a way to do it safely.
Yes. I mean, I like to think so. If there's one thing that I consider myself to be, it's responsible and respectful. And clearly, if a homeowner said, I'm not comfortable with you bringing someone in my house, it would be like, well, of course, then we absolutely won't. So when this all came about, I started having regular conversations with all of my sellers to say, it's your house, you're in charge. If you want to allow people to come in, that's great. If you want to deny it, that's also great. Whatever is comfortable for you.
But at the same... go ahead.
Yeah, and so far, I mean, most people have just been completely comfortable.
It sounds like you've been rather busy.
Actually, everybody has, because our CEO sent out a report, I think it was either Thursday or Friday, and she showed the past 2 weeks, year over year, so like March 9th, March 10th, whatever, for like 2 weeks, year over year, all throughout our RE/MAX results offices, and our showings are up every single day this year over last year.
It'll be interesting to see the statistic, now this week and moving forward to see how that happens nationwide.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the biggest issues is that, yes, this is a national problem, but I don't know if you caught any of yesterday. Tim Walz was on the radio, and there were some people from northern Minnesota where they haven't been affected at all yet.
Although they did finally have a case in Bemidji.
Oh, did they? Yeah. Okay. Well, the people were like small business owners saying, why are you closing us down? And it's like, of course, for everyone's safety. But it is a lot more frustrating, I think, for people who aren't experiencing it as much as like in the big cities.
Absolutely.
Right? So when we get on these like realtor chats and people are saying, absolutely no, you cannot be out showing houses. Well, if I lived where they lived, you're absolutely right. I mean, they're saying this in California, or they're saying this in Seattle, or they're saying this in New York. Of course, there's absolutely no showing houses. There's absolutely no leaving for anything unless it's a medical emergency, or unless, of course, you're a doctor or a nurse and you have to go in and work.
Well, I certainly hope we don't get to that point here.
Me too.
But as you pointed out, what you described, you've been showing houses over the past week has been right along the guidelines that they have offered up. You're a very small group. You keep your distance from each other. If the person's not exhibiting any symptoms, and you're sanitizing everything as you go.
Correct. And I said, it'd actually be nice if we showed houses like this all the time, because then there'd be a lot fewer germs spread around in general, coughs and colds and all of that. We're being just super, super careful and sterile, and I like it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not funny, but it's ironic that when you look at the steps we've all taken, we should have all been washing our hands as often as we have. There would be far fewer people sick with the common cold and the flu as well over the winter months.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll talk more with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX results in just a moment on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
We'll be right back with Robin Gwaltney and Andy Brownell on Rochester Real Estate. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. Welcome back to Rochester Real Estate with Robin Gwaltney from Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results and Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good morning and welcome back. Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results with us this morning. I'm Andy Brownell on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. And we've been chatting about the new world we're living in, at least temporarily, because of the coronavirus. Robin, have you seen any deals fall apart because of what has happened over the past week?
Well, I have personally not. Now, I do belong to some Facebook chat groups with realtors all over the nation, and there's definitely been deals that have fallen apart because of this. Luckily, I haven't heard of any here in Rochester. And I think if you think about why deals fall apart, one reason would be because people have just lost their job. They're not sure how long they're going to be out of work. They no longer have the same income that they had when they did that initial loan application. So that could affect it, and they may no longer qualify for the loan. We're super fortunate in the sense that a majority of people that live in Rochester have at least one income in the home that's related to the medical field. So, that puts us in a really good position as far as people still being able to qualify and buy and have job security.
Yeah, especially in light of what's going on.
Right. Exactly. And then also some places deals are falling apart because the actual closing companies have shut down and they aren't even going to do the closings. It's not something that traditionally you can do without being there in person. And if they're not allowing people to go out for those things, and again, we don't have that here in Minnesota, and I'm happy to hear about that. We have received notices saying that the only people that are allowed to come to the closings are the people that will be signing documents. So the days of the realtor sitting there holding hands or the lender being there to make sure all the numbers line up, we have to do that remotely. We just have to be on the phone and listening in and making sure everything is going smoothly. But it's all about the social distancing.
Sure, and now that technology kicks in as well, because if there is a question about a document, you could actually use your cell phone through a FaceTime or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And somebody can actually see the paperwork in another location.
Exactly. We're still sitting at the closing. We're just doing it virtually. So again, this is... if you look at the positive side of things, which I've always been a glass half full girl, right? So if you look at the positive side of it, thank goodness we have the level of technology that we have to be able to do the electronic signings and the virtual showings and the virtual closings and, do everything without having to be there in person.
Yeah. So I hate to go back on the negative side of the equation, but if Minnesota were to go down the path of these other states that have what shelter in place is what they call it, curfew or whatever you want to call it, these people who are Mayo Clinic residents are still coming.
Correct. And I'll tell you what I actually foresee happening anyway. Typically, the day, match day was yesterday. So typically this would be like the busiest day for residents because they all want to beat each other to the punch and get out here and get the best houses. Well, all the people who have matched are not local, right? So several of them will be flying in to buy a house. Well, guess what? There's not too many people that you and I know right now that are going to jump on a plane just to go house hunting.
Yeah.
So I see that those are the buyers that are going to be most interested in doing the virtual showings, or they're just going to push it off and hope that this, all gets better. Because with the residency, they don't start working until June. So when they start house hunting mid-March, that is still pretty much ahead of the game. So there's some time.
Sure. And what you could end up seeing is, instead of that huge rush at the beginning of this spring resident frenzy, you could have an extended busy season.
End of April, beginning of May, yes, could just be more of the residents pushed back a little bit. Absolutely.
I'm going to be really interested to talk to you as this process goes on and how it all works out with the virtual tours, with the videos and also the signing, to see, as this goes on and more people get comfortable with the idea of doing this and the new innovations that you folks who are in the industry will come up with to make the whole process even smoother. I know in my industry, we're inventing things on the go every single day to try to accomplish what we need to do.
Exactly.
And I imagine it's the same for you.
It's exactly the same. And, we have, I have Brian that works with me who is just a guru when it comes to gadgets, which is why I happen to have this great microphone. So when you said, do you happen to have a microphone? I'm like, I do. But anyway, he's ordered me like the handheld 360 camera and this other thing that you can put your iPhone on and it stabilizes it so it's not jumping all over. So this coming week, the beginning part of the week, I plan to go and do a tour of each one of my listings, and then we'll probably figure out a way to get it out there that we have these. We're not just going to plaster them all over Facebook, but we'll figure out a way so that when people are looking online, they can also, click here to get the video tour or whatever.
Sure.
And so we're going to add that to the pictures and the descriptions and what we already have. So we're just going to try to stay ahead of the game and keep getting as much information to the buyers as we can and continue to work as hard as we can for the sellers that we are already under contract with to get their houses sold.
And with Brian, sounds like he's also the guy that can show you how to use the gizmo once you have it.
Oh, yeah. He's so tech savvy. It's amazing. We're so lucky to have a marketing guy, and on top of it, to have one that's so extremely tech savvy. He's my savior for sure.
So other than the closing that you mentioned, that people have to have the pen out and sign the piece of paper, is it possible to conduct this entire transaction virtually now?
Well, they're working on it. It's been kind of a legal thing up until this point, but I've heard of other things that are changing. Like I've heard doctors can now practice in the state across, the next state, even if they're not licensed in that state. I mean, so there's things that in a national disaster, national crisis, emergency, whatever you want to call this, they get a little bit more flexible on the rules.
Sure.
So
is that another aspect that I was thinking of is that by not being able to physically walk through the house, if that's what the circumstances end up being, you've mentioned earlier in our talks how important it is for the seller to purchase one of these home warranties.
Yes.
And I bet that becomes real key because that will offer that remote buyer, a little bit more assurance when they dive into one of these purchases.
It's so I guess, impressive to me that you pick up on all these things because this past week when I was out showing houses, almost every single one of them either had been pre-inspected and then the inspection report was already available with the list of what the seller plans to do. Because if you think about that, we're taking that whole step out, right? Because we go in there, we find the house, we write the offer, we get it accepted. Then we come back, and when we come back to do the inspection, we're in there again, and this time with an inspector. And then the negotiating goes on. And then if we have to get work done, then they have to bring that person in to get the work done. So they're kind of hammering that all out ahead of time, many of the sellers. And I think it's really smart.
Yeah, get ahead of the game and try to avoid any of the hiccups.
Yeah.
Have you as an industry or even within the RE/MAX Results group, have you come up with contingencies for the event that they do the shelter in place? Are these inspectors even going to be able to?
No, I'm sure they will not. So I do know that the state of Minnesota has actually already added amendment to the purchase agreement regarding the coronavirus. So they're not wasting any time.
Okay. We're going to take another quick break, and when we get back, more with Robin Gwaltney with Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results. News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
We'll be right back with Robin Gwaltney and Andy Brownell on Rochester Real Estate. This is News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. Welcome back to Rochester Real Estate with Robin Gwaltney from Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results and Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. I'm Andy Brownell with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results on this Saturday morning, talking about real estate and how the real estate business continues, even though we're in a national emergency with the coronavirus pandemic. I saw you had posted something on Facebook that caught my eye, and I enjoyed it a lot because I try to be that way as well, that you refer to yourself as a glass half full person instead of glass half empty person. And you had identified some of the positives that we can attempt to enjoy because of the circumstances we find ourselves in. I really enjoyed that, and thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I am just more of a peace over panic kind of girl, right? I like to remain calm, and I like to think about out of every bad situation, which is definitely is. I'm not trying to make light of it or offend anybody. I mean, I do understand the seriousness, but I always tend to focus on the positive. So I think, we're a busy bunch of people. We are constantly running here and there and to and fro, and many people spend more time with their coworkers than they do their families, and people are jumping on planes. And I mean, my parents just like, wow, they're flying all the way there just to watch a basketball game. It's just hard because we just jump on and go, right? And so I think this is a good time to, go back to simpler times, live the simpler life, spend more time with our families. And, I said, think about all these pets that are so happy because their people are home, right? And it's the little things. And I think that if we just make the best of it, we're all going to be fine. I mean, we really are. And sure, there are some people that are going to get very ill and already have, and there are going to be more people who die. I mean, but it's still the way we look at it. Our attitude is going to be such a big part of how these next weeks or even months play out.
Outside of the social distancing and the things that, washing our hands and not going someplace if you do have a cold or anything that might be a symptom, this kind of is out of our control.
It is. And so really the only thing that we can control is how we react to it. So if we start judging people for what they're doing, I mean, I've seen so many people blast people. I can't believe you're outside. Get in the house. I can't believe you're out doing this. I think everybody needs to just leave each other alone and understand that everybody's going to approach it differently, but I think for the most part, everybody cares about the general good of all people. So I think we just need to join forces and support each other during this tough time, and we're going to get through it. It's going to be okay.
I think when you mentioned some of the positive things out there, I think that might be one of them. It's still there. I'm not saying it's not there, but I think it's kind of been pushed into a corner, some of that squabbling, kind of disagreeable,
definitely
in-your-face kind of thing that had been happening, and there's a lot more how can I help you, or what can I do to help out attitude taking place.
Yeah, there's always going to be that negative group, and there's nothing we're going to be able to do about them. I wish that's for a whole nother talk show, right? But as far as the general public goes, I think you're right. I think people are coming together as a community. We are all in this together, and we're all going to get through it together.
Well, I think in the long term, when this all is settled down and we look back at it, you're going to be able to sell this community to people outside of it. When you look at how these community organizations and even
Isn't it
elected
something?
officials have come together. I mean, the number of meals that are being served,
Yes,
and the number of
it's
kids who are
awesome.
being taken care of, and all it's just I'm just so impressed.
And you know me, I'm not home very often, and I've been home as a lot. I mean, I go out to do what I need to do, and then I've been home. So I've been busy cooking food and delivering meals to people who can't get out, and to me, that just feels awesome. I love being able to help other people.
And well, just try to keep a smile on our face and maybe extend a helping hand to a neighbor. Especially and if you have an elderly neighbor living near you, check in on them by telephone or whatever it is.
Exactly.
I can't stress how it's nice that your folks are right next door.
Yeah, and we have another neighbor that lives pretty close, and it's pretty cute because she stood on her deck and yelled to us the other day and said, "Should we stand on our decks and sing to each other?" And then she says, "My birthday's coming up." So Scott said, "On your birthday, we'll stand on the deck and sing to you." So we will.
Well, Robin, stay busy, I guess, or as busy as you can, and keep yourself healthy out there. Boy.
Yeah, well, there's always a way to be busy. Like I said, with technology, we can be on the phone with clients and online with clients and helping clients. There's no reason we can't be working in one way or another.
And also the aspect of this, that whatever is happening out there, that
It's temporary.
Yeah, and there'll be a pent-up demand for everything
Exactly.
when this all
Yes.
lets up. And then, so maybe enjoy a little bit of a quieter time if it does develop into that. Well, Robin, you enjoy the week, and hopefully
Yeah, the only
things
bad
will
thing
go
about
forward.
doing this remotely is I don't get to see your smiling face. So I'm just imagining it. But you have a great week, too.
You too. And we'll speak again next Saturday morning with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results, right here on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.